China warned the UK government not to ditch Huawei and 5G. They sent an open letter to Boris Johnson, and we answer questions from the members of this channel. Well, we are getting new signals from the UK government and Downing Street, essentially, that they might be considering making a U-turn and ditch Huawei's 5G project. And this is obviously because of everything that's been happening recently, the distrust when it comes between the Chinese government and the rest of the world. The mishandling of the current crisis obviously hasn't gone down too well with everybody. And so there are signals coming that the government might consider making a U-turn. And China, the nerves on the Chinese government, they've decided to send an open letter to Downing Street and warn them not to make the U-turn. Yes, this is according to the BBC that received the open letter from Huawei and the Chinese government. Chinese telecoms company Huawei has said that disrupting its involvement in the rollout of 5G would do Britain a disservice. In January, the UK government approved a limited role for Huawei in building the country's new data networks. But in March, a backbench rebellion within the Conservative Party signalled efforts to overturn the move. Now, this is the open letter that we've got from the Huawei boss. That's said that the home data use has increased by at least 50% since it's already gone up since obviously this crisis started, and they've also said that the Huawei are working with partners like BT, Vodafone, and EE to deal with the growth, and has also set up 3 new warehouses around the country to ensure spare parts stay in supply. And yeah, so they've said that, there are those who choose to continue to attack us without presenting any evidence. Disrupting our involvement in 5G rollout would do Britain a disservice. I mean, so firstly, to clarify, I'm not into conspiracy theories. I'm not like others. I'm not going to go with the whole 5G's behind everything, but I am against Huawei because Huawei is a state-run, essentially state-controlled company. The Chinese government are definitely behind it, and the Secret Service. And we don't trust the Chinese government, so I don't trust Huawei in general. And so there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. But this is different to the whole 5G conspiracy theories. As long as, unless there's evidence to be proven wrong, then, absolutely, I could change my mind. But the issue right now is Huawei and the Chinese government, and things aren't looking too good because they are already involved within the UK networks, and they're working with a number of other companies. And so we have to wait and see, because Parliament are going to come back in a week or so, and there definitely is going to be a lot of debates about the involvement of the Chinese government in this country. But considering this is going to be a big issue, I'm going to focus a lot on that on this channel. So obviously, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and click on the bell next to it so you get notified. We have a daily show at 5:45 p.m. Now, I'm going to go to some of the questions that we received from the members of this channel. As you know, as of last week, we do a video where we answer questions from the members. I want to say a massive thank you for supporting the channel. If you want to join as a member, make sure you check out the link in the description. So let's go to the first question. Right, so we have Dale Ackerman, who says, I would really like to know your opinions on the current situation with 5G, maybe a debunk of conspiracies. I myself don't believe the conspiracies I read online. Well, as I said earlier, Dale, there are a lot of things that's going around the internet. Some of them could be plausible with anything. It's not just about 5G. But I need evidence. I always go with actual evidence rather than someone said something, or we found some links between some things. In the past, we've heard a lot of conspiracy theories. So, if there is proper evidence, then sure. Nicola says, what do you think about the conspiracy theory that this health crisis and the whole thing was created in a lab by combining 2 viruses? I don't think this isn't really a kind of conspiracy. They've already kind of been proven that they have been experimenting with stuff. We have the Batwoman, who already exposed a lot of things. They were definitely trying things with bats and everything else. So the intention, we don't know exactly yet. If it was planned by the Chinese government, or if it was just an accident. Well, what a coincidence that it had to happen in China. Rocketman Chinch says, given the complexity of healthcare, and the fallout from the current situation. Is the NHS over or undermanaged? Well, I'm not the biggest fan, and I have a massive issue right now because the religion of the NHS, the whole branding is getting even bigger. Now, the whole problem is when you have doctors and nurses and staff members of hospitals and clinics doing a great job, they should get the credit, and they're not really the logo or the government, because right now it's the NHS as a brand that's getting all the credit. And if things go wrong, then obviously the politicians will get the blame. If things go right, the brand will get take the credit, and that's a big problem we have. It's definitely not sustainable. You can see, for example, in a country like Germany with a better healthcare system, they are definitely dealing with the situation much better than us. They're doing more testing as well. So the NHS, our healthcare system could be a lot better. And for those people who love the NHS, the alternative is not America. And it's not the American system. There are other models out there. You've got the European model, you've got the Western Europe and the Scandinavians and Singapore. These models actually work. You can still have a safety net if you're worried about having universal access. That could still exist. It's about who runs these clinics and hospitals. It has to be doctors and nurses and the actual staff. You need to decentralize everything. You cannot have the Public Health England and then the NHS England running things centrally. It shouldn't really work that way. Next question from Paulie says, "Hi Maya, have you had any trouble from the mainstream media, hatchet job articles, etc.?" It's been pretty quiet, but recently obviously I had the Guardian calling me names. That was fun, but I don't really count the Guardian as the mainstream media. They're hardly a newspaper. But generally speaking, everything's been good. I was on a watch list from one of the, I don't know, like some sort of hard left group. Otherwise, everything else is actually okay. They don't mind me these days. Marco says, "Do you think that Brexit will be delayed, especially since Boris is obviously not going to be doing anything for a period of time?" The signals we're getting from Downing Street is that they are still very, very focused on negotiating and not extending it. Now, as some of you know, June is the deadline for both sides to agree to an extension. And if we pass June and there's no agreement, then December 2020, that's it. With or without a deal, we're out. And at the moment, my gut feeling says no extension. Because they are still negotiating. If they weren't negotiating, then yes, I would have actually felt as kind of slightly worried and concerned. But at the moment, I'm going to guess it's still going to happen. No extension, but you never know. Kizzy says, "Do you think the banks are being unreasonable with businesses right now in not giving them the loans the government have guaranteed?" Well, yes, but it goes back to the massively flawed system that we have in this country, where in the West, where everything is so centralized and big, and these big structures don't really work properly. Banks, even if they want to try and help, the bureaucracy and the red tape and everything that they have is actually delaying the whole process. And they are being unreasonable, but also they have a lot of restrictions and they just can't deal with the whole thing. It's like universal credit, where a lot of people have been applying and they're still in the queue waiting for it. When you have something that's so centralized, it doesn't really work. Hopefully we'll see some more support from financially for businesses and individuals in the future. We have Bernardo saying, will this virus be the wake-up call that the world needs regarding China to stop turning a blind eye to their human rights abuses and stop buying their cheap sweatshop products? Unfortunately, I don't think completely, because the whole world, the Western world, massively rely on China, especially when it comes to products. Even if you, as an individual, want to boycott Chinese products, most of the things that you buy will be coming from there anyway. And but in terms of the international community, whether it's the United Nations or individual countries actually getting together and tackle the human rights abusers, the animal rights abusers in China, that could happen. There will be a massive backlash that the Chinese government have to answer, but not necessarily when it comes to economics, unfortunately. Gary says, "Why are the media so negative, always looking for failure and someone to blame? It's all media, not just the BBC. Well, that is completely spot on, Gary. I've always seen it when it comes to the news and the mainstream media out there. It's a two-way street. It's one reason is humans by nature, we pay 10 times more attention to negative news than positive news. We crave pain and negativity, so they know that the demand is there, and people will pay more attention to a dramatic negative news than if they just start their kind of their news program by saying, oh, so we have good news today, we have this, we have that. That's not going to go well. And then especially the channels like Sky News and Channel 4, where they need the adverts and the ad revenue, then they're definitely going to be focusing a lot more on that because they get more viewers. And that's the whole problem. And this is why on this channel I'm trying to do the exact opposite, where I'm going to try and kind of spread some positivity rather than just focusing on the negative stories. But generally speaking, they are in their bubble, the media, and that's what they're used to. And this is the whole problem, where they, as you said, they always want to blame someone else. We had Priti Patel doing the press conference a couple of days ago, and this was the first time she did the press conference, and the questions that we got from the journalists, it was just political, and it was just gotcha questions trying to get her to say something dramatic so that they could use the headline, and they did. She said something, and then they used it as a headline saying, oh, the Home Secretary said this, instead of saying the Home Secretary also gave some details that's kind of helping with the situation. They don't care about that. She talked about a lot of domestic issues when it comes to, obviously, the crime in the country. They don't care about that. So that's the problem. But this is what we have for today. Every week, once a week, we're going to do taking questions from the members. As I mentioned, if you want to join as a member and get more benefits out of this channel, then make sure to check out the link in the description, or find the join button next to subscribe, and or just go on your browser and type in youtube.com/myatc/join. And don't forget again to subscribe. And we have a daily show at 5:45 p.m. on MyTC. I'll see you guys tomorrow with a new video.